What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for checking out the music. Thank you for doing that. It's the most important thing to me. And so if you go and watch the music video that I just put up, Zamboni Funk live at the Funky Slug, or if you go listen to it on Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, wherever you like to get your music at, that is super helpful to me. And I just really appreciate that y'all spend the time like that. Also, there's a podcast called What is the Time? We got a next quarterly forecast coming out this week. If you want to do that, then that would be great. If you want to send me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, really, if you would do that, send me $2 or something like that, that would be super great. Thank you for doing that. There's also, you could get a reading, zambonifog.com, etc., etc. Let's go ahead and talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week, we've got so there are two main things happening this week. The first one is, so today's the new moon. So we've got this new moon in Gemini. New moon in Gemini is very good for collecting information. Very good, especially since we got Mercury there in Gemini as well, right? This is very good for sort of getting an idea for what's going on here. We can notice that this new moon is also square to Neptune in Pisces. So this is very good for, if you were going to visit the land of fairy or something like this, visit somewhere imaginal, and then take that and derive a narrative or story from that, this would be a good time to maybe plant the seed for that. That's what a new moon is good for, right? That's the beginning of that cycle. Whenever we're thinking about new moon stuff, then it's like the seed planting moment. No, this is not the fruit moment, right? This is not the moment where it's like, oh, I have the story now, right? This is the moment for planting the seed for that. So we've got this new moon in Gemini here that is square to Neptune in Pisces, out here in imaginal space and all this kind of thing, right? Speaking of imaginal space, that is there in Pisces. Neptune is there in Pisces, right? Saturn is also there in Pisces. And what's interesting this week is that Saturn and Jupiter are going to make a perfect sextile this week. That's great, especially because Jupiter is there in Taurus, but ruling Pisces, and a sextile is a complementary relationship, right? So Taurus and Pisces are signs that get along. They know how to see each other and work together. So to see Jupiter and Saturn in this relationship sort of gives us the sense that the structures and the meaning or the soul of the thing feels like it can work here. Now this is interesting because this is actually our first aspect since Jupiter and Saturn conjoined at 0 degrees of Aquarius back in, was that 2020, 2021? I think it was the end of 2020, right? That started us on the whole era of air and all this, right? This started a whole next 200-year cycle of history. And so this is our first aspect between Jupiter and Saturn since then. So this is a moment for building a new reality. And so if we're thinking with the imaginal space, right, then we're maybe in position to build up a reality that we would love to see, something that is imaginative in this way that might build something that might actually come into fruition, or that might actually become solid in some kind of way. So, and Jupiter in Taurus really likes the solid things. Jupiter in Taurus really likes big earthy stuff. And so this is a really good time to go out and spend some time in, whatever the nature looks like in your area. This looks like a really good time to spend some time in a forest or with a big tree. Even if you are in a city environment or something like this, if you can just go find a big tree and put your hand on it for a little bit and just breathe, then that is a beautiful thing that you can do. And that can help to generate some ideas, or that can help to just give a sense of community and togetherness. That's going to be really important because we can also see that Mars in Leo is approaching a square to Uranus this week. Now that's not actually going to happen until I think Sunday or Monday next week. And so, but we've got this, it's building up, right? So we've got Mars in Leo square to Uranus in Taurus. Now, so Taurus, this is that same place where Jupiter is, right? So we're thinking about big earthy things and sort of fixed solid dynamics. Uranus in Taurus has been there for a little while and has been talking about like labor struggles, and has been talking about like the price of food, and you know, the things that you generally think are or hope are going to be stable, and then has been lending itself to a lot of instability, and there's been a lot of sort of chaos and disruption. So Uranus in Taurus had been square to Saturn in Aquarius for a few years there. So Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn being the management, the structures, the authorities, and this kind of thing, in an overcoming square to Uranus in Taurus, that for a long time was sort of like quelling that Uranian rebellion. Now it looks like Uranus is in position to do whatever Uranus wants to do. Uranus is big on liberation. Uranus is really big on sort of breaking things, breakups, breakdowns, breakthroughs. I also think a lot about breaking out, breaking free. This kind of thing is what Uranus tends to want to do. So Uranus is no longer in a spot where Uranus can't just do that, right? And so then we can see that Mars is in Leo and approaching a square to Uranus. Also this week, the moon, after we've got this new moon, then the moon is going to sweep through and carry the light, transfer the light in between this Mars and Uranus. So even though they're not going to make an exact aspect, the moon will do that job for them. So Mars in Leo square to Uranus in Taurus, this looks like the spark that sort of sets Uranus off, or something like this. This looks like a moment where there's some kind of break that wants to happen, some kind of rupture, or, you know, one of the things that I've been thinking about this is that like Mars is really feeling himself, especially in Leo, right? So Mars in Leo is very comfortable. This is a Mars who knows how to do the Mars things. Leo is a sign that is, it's a fire sign for one thing, and Mars is a fiery planet. Especially the last decan there of Leo, the last 10 degrees of Leo is a comfortable space for Mars to be in. Mars rules that decan, and so this is a super comfortable place where Mars is able to bring the Mars stuff, the separation, the severing, the burning things, the action, the doing, the like pushing on stuff. Mars is able to bring that out in a really strong way. So then we pair that with a square, and we can think about a square aspect as being like conflict or tension or something like this. So Mars in Leo is in a square to Uranus in Taurus. Uranus wants to break free or whatever, right? And so there's a lot of energy in the system right now where you can sort of like break the thing or move really hard on it. This is really good for some kind of like sustained effort, especially since we see that these are in fixed signs as well, right? Typically we think of Uranus as being kind of like a flashbang moment. It's like kind of happens and then it's done. But to see that it's there alongside this Mars as well, and Mars and Leo, and both of them, whenever I think about Leo, I think about like an enduring fire, right? It's the fixed fire sign, and so there's something here that like wants to continue to burn, the spark that continues to like continue. And so with Mars in this position and square to Uranus, also not for nothing, Venus is hanging out here in Leo with Mars as well. You know, this is part of why Mars is feeling himself so hard. Mars is feeling real gassed up right now because we got Venus here as well. So Venus, you know, and both Venus and Mars can be thought of as warring planets sometimes, right? And so there's this idea of like charging into battle here, and Mars has Venus by his side, and he's just out here like ready to do the damn thing. And Uranus is going to add that spark to the whole situation, and like, can't nobody stop me. Why? What are you going to do? What you going to do against this Mars, right? And so there's a lot of this kind of energy going on a mundane or historical level. Like at the global level, I would expect some like movement, some definitely something like weird, and like some movement around geopolitical stuff. Like I would expect some borders to move around, especially since we can also see that Mercury in Gemini is going to come up and make a sextile to this Mars as well. This looks like angry words, or it looks like fighting words, or talking shit, or something like this might go down under this kind of sky. So with this in mind, it might be a good idea to go out and touch a tree sometimes, right? To go ahead and listen to, you know, if you're able to get into this imaginal space and hear what trees say, right? Trees will tell you things if you sit there and listen to them. If you just listen to them long enough, they will tell you things. And I wonder what they might have to say in this moment of geopolitical conflict. that's all I got to say for you right now. Thanks for checking out the music. Thanks for going to zambonifunk.com. Check out a reading there and all this kind of stuff. I'll see y'all next time.